following program is intended for mature audiences.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Believe it or not, I think I have MLS News, but I'm not sure. Because I think I saw this somewhere.
You don't know if you have MLS News?
Well, I'm not sure if I read it correctly or not, but did not my Columbus Crew get new something or others with their uniforms that no one liked?
No, they're absolutely hideous. They're stupid.
Right, see? So I did have MLS News, sort of.
Well, and it's not just your Columbus Crew, Greg. It's your Columbus Crew SC.
That's right,
They officially added the SC last year.
Yeah.
That's the difference of good.
I thought I saw an article somewhere about that. So that's the extent of my MLS News. There you go. We can move on to something else now.
MLS is trying to become just like everybody else and get like new jerseys every offseason. So I'm sure it'll be gone in a year.
I do like the logo update though from the three crew guys that they used to have. I like that.
Logo.
They could only go up from that original MLS logo. That was just bad.
Really bad. They have a really nice stadium. The Crew do. It's a really nice facility. Yeah, you see it right off 71 as you go through town.
U.S. Soccer's used it a lot for qualifying matches because it's such a good stadium and it's a nice atmosphere.
It really is a nice place.
You're not getting on board with Orlando City now that you're in Florida, Greg?
I don't live close enough to Orlando. That's going to be my excuse. I did notice, though, that both Florida teams are doing very well in the NHL this year, so I think they can attribute that to me moving down here.
Yeah,
So what happened to the Blue Jackets for all the years you were in Ohio?
I wasn't paying attention for a long time because I was a Rangers fan, and then I paid attention that one year, and they made the playoffs and had a nice little run. Then the Cleveland mojo found its way down 71, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, poor Beach.
Yeah, they're bad.
I feel so sorry for them because out of all the new market fans, they seem to be some of the most long-suffering yet loyal.
Yeah. Is it this season, they looked like they were going to be good, right? I mean, it wasn't just my imagination. You looked at that talent and you thought, this is going to be a good hockey team.
Yeah, I think everyone had penciled them in for a playoff spot at the very least.
And they went 0 and it was something like 0 and 9 or something to start
0 and 10 or 11, I think.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, once you do that, you're done. That's it. Anyway, so we haven't been on the show with the official lineup here in 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody.
Did you listen to last week's show, Zach?
I listened to the first half, and I was kind of disappointed I didn't get it in on the media talk that you guys were having. That was a good conversation.
I was disappointed you weren't here for us to talk about the sexual deviancy of Peyton Manning.
Yeah, we were talking about that. And I said, I go, it's too bad Zach's not here to talk about this. And Andy goes, he quit listening at the wrestling segment, so don't worry about it.
Well, I sat through. I just kind of pulled back and was doing something else while you did that. But I only listened to the first half so far.
That was our thinking, that after the 25-minute mark, we could start trash talking you because there's no way he stuck around through that.
Right, exactly. Well, what media stuff are we talking about that you want to get in on? Because we can certainly readdress it. I don't remember.
About networks and.
I think that's what it was. I think you guys were talking about the ability to watch teams and stuff, and basically, eventually, you guys got around to what I would have jumped in and said,
which was.
Well, it was funny too because right when you guys were talking about that, I happened to be having a conversation with my girlfriend about the very same thing. Of I was sitting here and I was talking to her about all the things I need to watch on Netflix or on HBO, and I'm like, why the hell do I even own cable anymore?
See,
and she said directly back, sports, and I was like, yeah, I guess, because really, you guys also pointed out, the only if you could get these league packages and have your local team included in that package,
yep,
then that'd be the end of it. I could go buy center ice right now, but I couldn't watch the Kings or the Ducks. Because I'm in both their areas. So that would be two teams that I couldn't watch on a regular basis through the league package. But if they got to a point where it said, I could just watch, you can watch everybody wherever you are, then great. And you even see some of these leagues now, they have these packages where if you are an out-of-market fan, you can buy a single team's games.
Yeah, MLB is doing that this season. It's expensive, though, because
it's still much more worth it in terms of the price point to buy the full league than one team, but they're making it, at least they're making it an option if you wanted it.
But if you think about it, though, if you want to be a quote-unquote cable cutter, though, it would be worth – I think that what you would spend on a season, like let's use like the Angels as an example. I want to say it was like $90 for the full season. You're going to spend way more than that over 6 months on your cable bill alone.
Right.
So if you want to truly cut the cord, it's worth it because you're spending, let's see, 6 months, it's about $15 a month.
Right.
As opposed to, I don't know, I mean, I have DirecTV, but I know that if you want to have a decent package, you're looking at least $80 to $90 a month. Yeah. So it works out.
And again, it's a great option for the out of market fans, but it's still not worth it if you're in market now.
Yeah.
So and even like I guess the one downside of the Rams coming into town is like you couldn't even cut the cable and be like and just watch the NFL online anymore because now the Rams games will be blocked out here.
Yeah, see, that blackout thing's just got to go. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
In my whole life, I have never, and I've attended a lot of sporting events. I have never gone to. Well, I'll take that back. I did go one time because the game was blacked out. It was the Browns season opener. Back in the 80s sometime, and we went to the game because it was the first game of the year. We were all fired up, and we wanted to see it, and it wasn't on TV. That's the only time I've ever gone because of a blackout. That's it.
I know the other problem I have with the NHL's package in particular is that not only do they black out your local games, they black out the national games.
Mm-hmm.
And those national games don't just mean NBC or NBCSN. It means NHL Network, which is on an even higher sports tier than NBCSN. So if a game's on NHL Network, you couldn't watch it either, which makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Don't you think, though, that at some point these leagues are going to figure out that they're getting – I mean, I get that they pay or that they get paid rights fees and all that, but you're losing, I think, another revenue stream by not just allowing, like, so you to say, I want to get center ice and I want to be able to watch the Ducks. What's the harm? They aren't going to lose a ton of viewers. I mean, I think it would work out in the wash is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it would be a death blow to rights fees or anything like that.
No, because somebody still has to carry those games.
Right.
Somebody still has to carry those games. And just talking about from a local perspective up here, I mean, for the last round of negotiations for the Canadian TV rights, Rogers paid $5 billion for them. I mean, there's still going to be that demand, even if you have a completely carte blanche NHL Center Ice program that basically lets anyone watch any game wherever they happen to be. There's still going to be those people who just have cable and who want to watch as much NHL hockey as possible, and you're still going to get one Canadian network or another willing to shell out $5 billion for the rights to it. So
I think the other thing that's kind of interesting with those local networks too is, especially like the regional networks, they have I know they need this money to support the whole day and whatever, but do you watch anything else on those local regional channels besides the games?
No.
Like they have all this, original programming, and it's like, who is sitting around watching those? The only time I ever see those is if I'm out at lunch and it's a place with TVs on and they have the TV turned to that channel just because they need sports programming during the day.
Do you know what one of the shows that they ran on it used to be called Sports Time Ohio was the Indians Network? It was, I swear to God, it was a guy with a camera and this girl host went to bars and played trivia contests. That was the original programming. That was it. And you would win like $3 if you got the. I mean, I'm not kidding. $3. The
only time I ever watch actually just Rogers Sportsnet Ontario is if there's an NHL game or the Jays are playing.
Yeah.
There's just absolutely no other. I honestly couldn't even tell you what original programming is on Rogers Sportsnet Ontario outside of Jays or Leafs games.
Well, I know that like it's with Fox Sports Ohio they have a half-hour pregame show before Jackets games, or it's basically like a Jackets pregame show. They do the same thing with the Indians, and they did once a week. They had like a Browns show that they would talk about the Browns game from the week, and then the trivia show where you won $3 if you got 3 questions in a row. You won $25. That's it.
There's also the local Rogers channel, which is just Kitchener. The only time I've ever watched that in my life, I grew up here and I'm living here now. the only time I've ever watched that is if I was watching Kitchener Rangers games. That's the only time.
I was going to say that the Fox Sports Ohio, the funny thing is, and I think this really proves Zach's point, I've been here for almost 3 months now, and I have yet to even tune in one of the Florida local regional sports networks. I don't even know what channel they're on.
Because it has no interest to you.
Right, exactly.
Like, you don't need to see whatever's on there right now. I mean, I assume in like a week, or I guess starting next week, you're going to get plenty of Marlins and Rays spring training.
Yeah, and I sometimes I think like I should watch like the Lightning game or whatever, but it just, once I get past the point of like, okay, it's going to be 80 every day, so I don't need to be outside all the time, I'll probably start watching more. But right now, I sit out back with my computer if I do anything at all.
Although, Zach, I just had an idea for the local Rogers, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge network up here. If your game, come up here. We'll pitch Zach does TV version of Leafs Talk.
Oh, I would tune in for that.
Oh, yeah. Listen, boys. The Leafs, they're trading everybody. Everybody's gone. We brought in Rafi Torres. That's where we're at this point, boys.
See, I would watch that. I would pay the money just to see that.
The best thing is about those Leaf shows, especially at a time when the Leafs are in turmoil right now. All these people need to do is just all they need to do is, hey, welcome to Leafs Talk. All right, we're gonna go to the phones. You could take phone calls about the Leafs for probably 3 hours.
Oh, 3 days, more like.
Yeah, easily. Fuck, you don't even need to do that. Just cut out the whole studio aspect and just take a camera crew around to bars around the GTA and Kitchener, Waterloo, and just start interviewing just like random guys at sports bars. Like, I'll tell you what they need to do there.
So what do you think about what Shanny's doing there, huh? Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're losing a whole lot. I don't know why we traded Phaneuf. I mean, he's the captain, right?
Hey, I'll tell you, I am ecstatic about the fact that they trade. Not only did they trade for Noof, but they got Ottawa to take on his $7.5 million contract.
Of all the teams for Toronto to trade their dead load to, it's Ottawa.
Fuck you, Senators.
Even when you have the high ground Ottawa, you still are underneath Toronto. Like, what are you doing? It's so funny.
Well, most of the fans up there are at least fans anyway, so now they just get more Dion Phaneuf into their lives, I guess. So.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it.
That's what we all look for at the end of the day.
I mean,
Dion.
I'm just waiting though for them to send Bozak to Pittsburgh. That would just be the best.
Are you freaking serious?
I mean, he's got to be on the chopping block now, seeing as they're trading everyone away. So come on, Bozak to Pittsburgh.
I mean, Kessel goes to Rutherford, just be like, hey, Jim. So listen, I mean, Sid and Evgeny are great, but I need my boy Tyler. Like, I'm scoring a few goals now, but I could be scoring 50 if I had Tyler. Like, but
how is our boy Phil doing with the Penguins this year anyway?
Not half bad. He's
I mean, I think he's in a better position now that no one's kind of expecting him to.
He is on the one of the front page articles on NHL.com. It's Bruins Penguins have playoffs in sight, and there's Phil right there.
Yeah, Philly Kessel has 19 goals, 19 assists.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But yeah, if he could get his boy there, he'd get 50, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing for him is that he's now the third star on the team.
Yeah.
He maybe even fourth or fifth.
Which, in all seriousness, I think is a better spot for him than trying to be the guy that carries the load. Yeah.
He can be. I mean, he was in Toronto. It's not the Leafs being battled those years wasn't his fault.
No.
But,
No, it wasn't, but I don't know. It's just a whole mess of distractions. I'm honestly happy that they're dumping everything and piling up picks. Now we can see Babcock and Shanny in action, building a team.
Yeah.
Woo.
So you have hope. So anyway, what do we want to get into this week? We've got like 3 weeks of catching up to do here.
Well, I think one thing we can talk about. I mean, we started off talking about uniforms, then we talked about hockey a little bit. Teasers have been released for the World Cup of Hockey.
I saw a little teaser yesterday. I saw a red something with 3 stripes on it.
Of course, it's Adidas.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that coming out of these. Here's the link to the the thread with the teasers on it. I mean, there's not much to see. They're just super close up, and the Canadian one's gonna have a maple leaf on it, and the Sweden one's gonna have crowns on it.
Apparently, from what I've gathered about the Canadian ones, is that they're going to be based off of the Summit Series uniforms, which
with the big leaf on the front.
Yeah, the big leaf on the front. But then again, there is that close-up of what looks like some sort of maple leaf logo, so I don't know if that's a shoulder thing or how that's going to fit in. But it seems like the Canadian uniforms are just the Summit Series uniforms with maybe an additional logo and the Adidas stripes down the side.
See, but that's what these teasers. I mean, I get it. You want to get a little excitement going, and it gets uniform dorks like us. We get all fired up about it. But there's really not a whole lot to take away from these shots.
Well, if you scroll down, see that you posted, Zach, the North American under 23.
Right. I think those are some of the things that
that's the team to watch in this thing too. By the way.
I mean, those are the things that I'm a little bit more excited for when it comes to the jerseys, because everything else, what Canada's going to look like. What's right. All these teams, they look the same. And now that we know that there's going to have the 3 stripes down the armpits, I think that's the only other thing we were looking for. But I mean, you have like the North American under 23s and the other European team.
The Europe that's not the good European countries.
Right. Scab Europe. Is
pretty much, yeah.
There you go.
But
I like the color scheme for the under 23 North American team.
I like the idea of the Roman numerals, the 23 with the black and orange. It's the thing with that and the European one. It's a completely blank slate. You can literally do whatever you want.
Yep.
And figure out what.
I guarantee you, though, that Scab Europe is just going to be European Union. It's probably just going to be blue with like the gold stars.
That's what I would assume, but not all those countries are in the European Union, right?
Who is there a list of countries that's officially represented by?
I mean, no, because it depends on who makes the roster, but is Slovenia in the European Union?
I think they are. I think Slovenia is. I think.
Kopitar's got to make it, of course.
Well, I mean, they might as well just name the Slovenian national team after Kopitar.
Right. I mean, so
doesn't he have a brother too that could be like the Flying Kopitars or something like that?
It's his brother and his dad's the coach.
There you go. Yeah.
I think the other countries that aren't represented are like Slovakia and Switzerland. If Lucas Pizza made it, he's Swiss.
Slovenia is in the European Union.
Yeah.
I like the Flying Kopitars. That's a good name. They should go with that.
I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter because ultimately, it doesn't matter just because, like the under 23 North American team and the European and the Scab Europe team, those are
Scab Europe.
That's just what I'm stealing up from Zach. We should just call them that going forward.
I think we're stuck with it now. We've said it about 3 times. It's not going anywhere.
But those teams aren't going to be around if this thing becomes a regular tournament.
When is this thing taking place? It's not this next year, right?
It's this September
in Toronto, actually.
So in my mind, that's next hockey season. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so these teams are only going to exist the first time around, supposedly, because they want to have a qualifying circuit for these lower countries, but when they announced that it was so close to when they wanted to hold it, that they said, well, we're not going to have time for lower level qualifying. So instead of just taking the top 8 like they used to for the World Cups when they had them, they decided to make up these 2 teams. I think the other reason they did it is to maximize NHL participation, because they don't want one of these countries that they don't have enough NHL players to fill out a roster. Because it's an NHL and NHLPA event. It is not a double IHF international event. That's also why Adidas is doing the jerseys rather than Nike.
Okay,
yeah, because if you don't give like you said, there might be a team or a country that's got like 2 good players and then a bunch of stiffs. I mean, what's the point of even having? Yeah, so
Slovenia made the Olympics, but the only guy that's an NHL player was Kopitar. And it was cool to see them play, and they won a couple games, and they were the fighting Kopitars. It was great. But when it's an NHL event and it's in Toronto and you're trying to sell as many tickets as possible, wouldn't you rather have USA and Canada versus an under-23 team that has Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel and John Gibson?
That would be cool.
I don't know. I'd totally buy tickets to see Slovenia versus Kazakhstan. Okay,
Well,
so I'm
those are
looking
the
at
only ones you could probably afford.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Kazakhstan, I mean, this is going to seem really off the beaten path here, but I finally watched that Borat movie.
Oh God!
My God, because I've never been a big Sacha Baron Cohen guy. It's like he's all right and all that. But I sat, I'm like, it was on HBO the night, and I'm like, all right, I'll check out 5 minutes of this. It was fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
It just cracked me up. But anyway, I don't want to.
The suit is black knot. The suit is black knot.
I like the when he was at the dinner with
Let's
those Southern
stop
people, and he's like, I'm retired. He's like, oh, you're retired. Like, mental or physical. It was just fucking hysterical.
Yeah, no, it's solid.
No, I love when he and his manager are stuck in the motel, like the bed and breakfast, and they find out that like the couple that owns it is rich.
Like some of the stuff, like when he did the anthem at the rodeo or whatever, that was like legit, right? The reactions were real.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because like when he did the country music thing and he played the song "Throw the Jew Down the Well," and they were all singing along. I'm like, oh my God, I'm ashamed to be American today. Anyway, I thought it was really funny, but anyway, I finally caught up with a movie that came out like 8 years ago.
I've pulled up the European Union. These states are not part of the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
Iceland.
Yeah.
Norway.
Really?
Yeah, that's shocking. But Norway's not in the European Union. Switzerland isn't.
Really?
Switzerland isn't. Well, they're neutral.
Switzerland.
Yeah, but I mean, are they that freaking neutral? I mean, come on.
Yes.
Yeah, they literally can't have any allies or associations or anything, right?
Okay.
Andorra, San Marino, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Albania, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Bosnia.
Okay, so if Matt Zuccarello, who is from Norway, if he made the other European team, he couldn't be wearing
European Union.
Neither could like Jonas Hiller or Despiza or other Swiss players.
Or Thor Vikingstad.
Oh, of course, Thor Vikingstad.
Greatest Norwegian ice hockey player of all time.
And greatest name of all time, period. Just what a great name.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, I don't know. I legitimately looked into tickets to maybe trying to organize a trip to go up there, but you have to buy. You can't just buy individual tickets right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to buy the whole damn package.
How much is that?
It's too much. You have to buy all 16 games.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're all going to be played in Toronto at the Air Canada Centre. So
the entire tournament's taking place there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I mean, Toronto's getting a lot of stuff because it's the Leafs 100th anniversary and all that stuff. So Toronto is getting. I think the only thing they're not getting is the All-Star game.
Well, this thing's basically like hockey's version of the World Baseball Classic, right?
It is, yes.
Hopefully it gets a little more interest than that did.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's the idea. It's just I don't know. It's being thrown together so last minute that maybe it can't, but who knows?
Well, the whole thing about it is that it's so last minute, but at the same time, if they are able to make this thing somewhat of a success, then there is always the possibility going forward that when they do it again, right, it's that it'll be done better. That's basically my attitude going in, is to not be too harsh on this going into the first year, because this is obviously the first attempt, and that it's really going to be more fair to judge how they do it the second and third time around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in it just because I love international hockey and high-level hockey like that. And my main concern is that it has that World Baseball Classic problem where you're doing it in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a separate event. It's not during the season. These guys aren't going to be ready, really. And say the other problem is, say you look back at the Olympics and say you're the Islanders and you see John Tavares playing his heart out for Canada, and then he gets injured again in a preseason tournament that means nothing.
Yeah.
And then your whole season is boned because your star players got injured in the preseason. I mean, that could happen in a preseason game normally, but in the preseason, they're not going as hard as they can. In these games, when they're playing for, pride and country, you want them to be playing as hard as they can, and if they do and they hurt themselves, then what happens?
That's the risk, but that's the thing. But okay, how many people? I mean, I'm assuming that I'm sure that participation is not mandatory.
It's it doesn't sound like it's mandatory, but it is highly encouraged.
Okay.
Let's say.
The problem with this, and my biggest criticism of this, is that this tournament only exists because the NHL is trying to find a way around the Olympics, and they want to make some money off of the whole international hockey thing. That's all it is. Like, the NHL is just kind of being petulant and saying, me too.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately my problem. And the only way this succeeds is if they are able to, I guess, build this up to the point where it actually becomes something that both players and fans look forward to. I think in the NHL's mind, the best case scenario is for this to supplant the Olympics as sort of the premier international
but you see,
and the NBA is going to try to do the same thing shortly too.
Yeah,
they
it's
want
just
to have
that,
their own kind of world championship of basketball.
It's just trying to. I mean, the Olympics. You get so many people that aren't even sports fans that watch the Olympics, and they'll watch the hockey, they'll watch anything because it's the Olympics. I just don't know that like this or the World Baseball Classic or any of those have the same kind of curb appeal that the Olympics does. So that's
I don't know how many. And I just don't know how this is going to succeed long term as sort of a premier international tournament without the participation of the IIHF.
Right. I think it's also like you have everyone goes head over heels for any U.S. team in the Olympics. And then even in the World Cup, like the soccer World Cup, people go head over heels for that. But in other international competitions, it's like are people watching the World Basketball Championships every year rooting on Team USA?
I didn't even know that they had that.
Right. Are people rooting on the World Hockey Championships every year? When those are in the middle of the Stanley Cup playoffs, so no one really knows if they're even happening.
That's another thing this thing's going up against too. It's going up against pennant race baseball and the NFL. That's going to be that's a tough ticket to sell that time of year.
Yeah, I think the good thing about this is that it's on ESPN in the States.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll get some sort of coverage. And I know ESPN's already kind of promoting it a little bit now, just very slightly, but I don't know.
Yeah, as long as it's on ESPN, that's a big help because if it's theirs and they have the rights to it, they're going to promote the hell out of it, so that'll help. Yeah. It's just, the only thing I could see for this, like, to supplant international hockey would be if the NHL just entirely dropped out of the Olympics. And then you've only got, if you want to see international hockey, this is your only option.
They're going to do that because I don't think they're going to – I think they're going to have a better chance of backing out now that the next Winter Olympics are in what, South Korea?
Yeah.
I mean, that they would have dropped out of Sochi, but they didn't have a choice because all of the Russian players said, no, we're going to go play for our country in our home country. So,
and all those dogs needed homes. I mean, you had to do something, right?
So, I mean, they couldn't really back out of Sochi, but you're not – I think most players won't – it's going to be easier to get them to stay home if – the Olympics are in South Korea. So,
speaking of international hockey, this week marks the 36th anniversary of the greatest moment in the history of sports, too, by the way, which was Monday. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you believe in miracles?
See, even Mike recognizes it as the greatest moment.
See, I was waiting
sports.
for the Summit Series thing to come up again, but he's finally just given up and said,
I just know what you think is the greatest moment in sports history, and I never said you were right.
Yeah, I had to watch the speech again,
I posted the speech on Facebook. I posted like the last minute and a half of the actual game. Mm-hmm. Best sports movie ever, too, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, no, it's one of the greats.
Yeah.
It's all up there.
Absolutely.
I've got some more logo news. It's kind of a step down from the Miracle on Ice and international hockey. But the Chicago Bulls NBA D League, but so they had a contest for Bulls fans to choose what the D League's team name would be. Okay. Chicago sports fans proved themselves to be entirely unimaginative and chose Windy City Bulls.
Really?
Yeah.
And having been there just a week
Oh yeah,
or so
we need to review your trip to Chicago. That's why I forgot. Go ahead.
I will give you the satisfaction to know that it is quite windy, and you definitely tell when you're in single-digit wind chills that it is cold and that it is windy.
Welcome to life in the Midwest, Zach.
How'd you like it? How'd you like the United Center and all that?
United Center is really nice. It's big. It's a very nice modern arena. You know, it fits over 20,000 people. It's actually pretty impressive how big or how many people actually can fit in there, and it still feels kind of like a normal sized arena. And I don't know if it was just because of the flow of the first half of the game was kind of boring. Like there wasn't a whole lot going on.
Yeah,
but still, the United Center was pretty quiet. I gotta say,
really,
not the most lively building I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
And you know, most of the time the fans didn't make any organic cheers. Like you would think that in a big hockey town for a big game against a rising team they play in the Western Conference Finals, you get some energy in there and a lot of "Let's Go Hawks" chants. They would only chant when the organ would go bump bump bump, "Let's go Hawks."
So you're telling me that
they wouldn't do it again? Like, you know how sometimes it's "Let's go Hawks" and then they stop doing it and then people still continue on. Like even kind of a fading, like "Let's go," like somebody did it one too many times. As soon as they didn't do it again unless the organ prompted them to.
So you're telling me that the Blackhawks fans have to be led by like the scoreboard and the organist and all that stuff? Wow.
Sounded like it.
Wow.
I endured 2 Chelsea daggers, which was nice.
How is the Chelsea dagger thing live?
It's everything that you thought it would be and worse. Just a bunch of drunk Chicagoans. Well,
that's why it's the perfect goal song.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great goal song. Like, honestly, when I'm not going against it, I love it. It's fun. Let's see what else.
Did you? Go ahead.
Game like as far as like the game entertainment, like the in-game entertainment on the boards and stuff, it was just generic sporting event.
Really?
Like, yeah, everything from like the in-game entertainment to the stuff on the board.
Wow.
The only things that were unique are the clapping and cheering during the national anthem, which is, purely Chicago Blackhawks. And he points to the flag was still there, gives his emphatic point to it. Everybody goes nuts. And then the game started and it was just like, oh yeah, you're at a sporting event. Okay.
Wow.
Here's your occasional organs, your regular music, stuff on the Jumbotron, nothing.
I'm a little disappointed, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was, and it helped that the Ducks ended up winning the game. But I don't know if that's just a product of a team being so successful that they're just everybody is.
That could be.
That could be a fan is there. So it's not just the diehards. It's literally any person that's ever cared about a hockey game might show up there now. So it's just.
Plus, it was really, really cold that weekend, so they probably weren't in the best mood. But
maybe, like, I don't know if all that factors into it, but sure. But like when if I were to compare it to the best experience I had, Montreal, Chicago's not Montreal.
Wow.
No, so Montreal still tops your list as best experience as a visiting fan?
Yeah, in terms of the passion and, just the energy in the building. And, maybe in Montreal, people were watching the game, but they weren't quiet. They were watching, but there was still kind of that murmur of, oh, the Canadiens, we must win this game. And when it's in Chicago, it's like, oh, yeah,
I'm disappointed because
it was outside.
I would have figured they would be up there like at the Montreal level or New York, Detroit, along those lines, Toronto, where it would just be like this electric atmosphere when you were there, just because it's a Blackhawks game in Chicago and the whole bit.
I thought so. It's a Saturday night at Chicago.
Oh wow!
You got the Western Conference finalists coming in here, and it's just like, okay, like. Nobody even – I didn't think anybody said anything to me, or the only ribbing I got through the entire game was in the second intermission. I was just standing there in my seat kind of stretching from sitting all period, and the beer guys walking around, and he goes, beer for everybody except for Ducks fans. And I was like, aha, real funny. And then then he kept he said a couple things I forget. And then one of the other fans was like, you're giving him such a hard time. You should give him a beer now. And he's like, all right, man, you want a beer? And I was like, I don't need one right now, but if you wanted to give me one, he's like, all right, you can have a beer, $18 instead of the original $8. And I was like, oh, okay. Funny.
Well, Chicagoans, they're pretty funny guys.
And then after the game, when we won, I was like, woo! And then the people in front of us, they, instead of like being mad that they lost, like, oh, where are you guys from? I'm like, are you guys from here, Chicago or California? I'm like, California. And they're like, California. How do they even have ducks? Ducks need water. Where's the water, California? And I was like,
oh, that's funny.
Like, oh, okay.
That's funny.
Like, I don't know. I don't know if it was just because it was so cold and everyone's so used to winning that they don't give a damn. Like, I don't know what the difference was. Like, I almost wish I could have been on last week with Andy just to ask what's the deal. But
has he ever been to a Blackhawks game?
I don't know. But I mean, he knows Blackhawks fans. He'd be closer than I would.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
I'm disappointed. I really thought it would be like this electric atmosphere because they're so good, and they're in the running again this year. And
I think it's one of those
Chicago,
things,
original six, the whole thing.
I think it's one of those things where they're so good and they're on such a run that they're like the regular season is bland.
That
to
could
them.
be it too, yeah.
And because everybody, like I said, everybody that's ever pretended to be a Blackhawks fan can or wants to go to the games now. It's not like the core group of diehards.
Yeah.
That you might see other places. So,
wow.
I don't know.
Oh, that's too bad. Did you do anything else while you were there? What did you have like Chicago pizza or anything like that?
I had Chicago pizza the last time we were there. My family that I was with, they're not big on Chicago pizza.
Oh, okay.
So we could go. What did we do? I mean, the first night it was just cold as all freaking hell. Walked down the street to an Italian place. Next day, we went to a museum. Well, we were going to go to the aquarium because it was free museum and aquarium day or something. But there was a 2.5 hour line outside in the cold.
Oh my God.
To go into the aquarium.
Oh, man.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. But then there was.
I ain't about to stand outside in sub-zero weather to look at a fucking fish. I'm sorry.
Well, and the aquarium was actually $8 to get into, too. It wasn't free. But the History Museum, 200 yards next to it, was free for Illinois residents, and there was no line.
God.
It makes no sense. And all these things are actually right next to Soldier Field. And the thing that I never actually got into the last time I was in Chicago, I don't think I actually even drove by Soldier Field, but I finally understood what some Bears fans have been talking about in terms of its design, where it looks like a spaceship has landed on top of the old Soldier Field.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like that.
They really ruined the aesthetic of that place.
And like this traditional architecture, you're like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then there's like a metal dish on top of it. You're like, oh.
They really ruined the look of that place when they did the renovation.
Yeah.
They could have done a better job.
The big aluminum or metal bean.
Yeah.
Reflective thing.
Is that? Yeah, I saw you put pictures of that up on Facebook. I'm like, what the hell is that thing?
Yeah, it's the Cloud Gate in Millennium Park. It's supposed to represent like liquid mercury.
Okay.
So that was kind of neat. But otherwise, Chicago. I really like Chicago. I think part of it was just because it was so damn cold.
Yeah.
You don't get a flavor for the city because there's no flavor.
Well, see, I think that's what people think, that like in the Midwest when it gets that cold, that like because you've lived there, you're used to it. You never get used to that shit when it's that cold out. Never.
You just decide, oh, it's cold, I'm going to stay in.
Yeah, you just endure it. I mean, it's like
unless you want to go to the aquarium, I guess. Then it's then people are willing to trade it.
When we saw, because we figured that since the aquarium you had to pay to get in, it'd be a shorter line and it'd be emptier. And that there was a 2.5 hour line. It wasn't as windy down there, but it was still 18 degrees outside.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine standing in a line for that long just to go to an aquarium. Yeah. I would expect that at, I don't know, like a Bears game or something maybe, but for that, come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I've never been to Chicago, so I don't know much about it, but that's strange. I would not imagine. I don't think even people in Cleveland are that stupid that they would stand outside in line for 2.5 hours when it's that cold out. Oh well.
Yeah. Anyway,
disappointed in the Chicago experience.
I don't know if I'm disappointed in it, because when I went the first time in like, what was it, 3 years ago? I went and saw the Angels play the Cubs.
Yeah.
That was great. The summertime in Chicago was great. And the Cubs game was great. But I don't know if it was just because we were in the upper deck and you're far away. And I don't know. I didn't have a bad time, but it was lacking something.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what it was.
So you're saying it was more Ottawa Senators than Montreal Canadiens?
Sounds like it.
I don't think it was even Ottawa. I mean,
Ooh.
the fact is they still had 22,000 people in an arena to watch a hockey game. I think it might have been better if it wasn't so cold and maybe people were in a better mood.
Everything's better when it's not that cold out.
I think part of the thing is because United Center is so big. Like when I went down for warm-ups and stood next to the glass, it didn't feel like I was in an arena more than I felt like I was in a small stadium. Maybe that's the thing, is that it felt like you were in this giant place with all these people, which is kind of cool, but I think part of the thing that kind of soured it was that first half of the game when everyone was so quiet. Like I could talk to people next to me without any sort of bother. I kind of leaned over and I'm like, are we renting books in here? Like, what the hell is going on?
It was library night at the Blackhawks game. That's why it was so quiet.
It was kind of strange. But
yeah.
I don't know. Besides that, it picked up a little bit. You know, they got into their Chelsea dagger, but nobody threw anything at me. Oh,
that's nice. You know what? I got to get a plug in here, too. I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but we are fast closing in on the 4th edition of the Glorious Tournament of Victory, guys. Yeah.
Also, more plugging. We recorded a new episode of Bags, our first episode of the new format.
As somebody pointed out, Bags now stands for basically a general show.
Well, we're still calling it basically a geek show, but whatever you guys want to call it is fine.
But yeah, so we've got that coming up, and of course the Glorious Tournament of Victory, which should be just another barn burner like it is every year. Lots of upsets in the Chimp Conference this year. It's going to be a very interesting run for the Chimps this time around. So there you have it.
Indeed.
All right, so are we ready?
We are.
For the first time in the history of basically a sports show, a 4-minute and 30-second intro before we get to Zach's Tabs.
Zach's Tabs down from the mountain.
Yes. I don't know where to go from there.
Okay, well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, folks.
Let's go towards Mike's area, the Ontario Hockey League.
Woo!
Go Spitfires. Wait, wrong league, right?
On this side of the border, as we want to talk about the Flint Firebirds. You might remember them as the team that the coach was fired because the owner's son wasn't getting enough playing time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, that coaching staff has been fired a second time. Despite being given 3-year extensions after being brought back after that initial boycott. And so the OHL has suspended the team owner and the general manager and the coaching staff until further notice.
So what was the reason for firing him this time?
That tends to happen when you put together a team solely to get your untalented son into the NHL. And you're
right.
Not exactly setting the team in general up for great things.
This, of course, is in Flint, Michigan, where, of course, you also know the water isn't tasting all that great recently.
No. Flint's just not had a good run for about the last 40 years.
Not a great little run.
I'm actually going to Michigan in a few weeks to go to a concert.
Who are you going to see?
Electric Six.
I was going to say it had to be the Electric Six, right? Where are they playing?
Ann Arbor, actually.
I think you can get weed in Ann Arbor if you want. I'm not suggesting that you do, but if you want to, it's there.
I shouldn't be doing weed in general.
Okay, just saying, if it's there if you want it.
Again, speaking of Canadian hockey leagues and Canadian teams, we mentioned the Montreal Canadiens earlier. They're a great historic franchise. Many things to be proud of, including their 1 millionth Twitter follower.
Is this going to be another case of when this happened to the New England Patriots?
It's not going to end well. Let's just put it that way.
They went to congratulate them through the automated service that tabulates their follower count. And so they wanted to celebrate at Death to N1GGERS.
Oh, God.
For their contributions to the Montreal Canadiens.
You do realize this is exactly the same thing that happened to the New England Patriots.
Then, of course, they deleted that and realized that they did a bad thing. But a few minutes later, at Nigger Soupan got congratulated for the same thing. Being 1 million followers.
Might be time to step in and keep an eye on I'm not saying you got to watch it all the time. Oh, wait, there's more.
There's more.
Oh, hold on.
They did it again, and they wanted to then a video message from Max Pacioretty to celebrate the 1 millionth fan, celebrating at Toilet Habs. Then that one got deleted, and finally at I Love ISIS was celebrated as being the 1 millionth follower.
I Love ISIS? Don't you think that after the Patriots, all teams would learn when we get to one of these milestone Twitter things, might be a good idea to kind of have somebody sit and watch just to be safe?
Maybe?
Just saying. I'm just saying. 'Cause that's twice now. That's twice now. And this isn't, and we're not talking like the Flint Firebirds here. We're talking the New England Patriots and the Montreal Canadiens. Not exactly a couple of minor league out in the middle of nowhere teams here. Just saying. Might be a good idea to keep an eye on that Twitter feed.
Yeah. Let's move over to baseball. And I'm going to start in Mike's neck of the woods, Mike.
Woo!
The Toronto Blue Jays have found themselves in a bit of a firestorm, haven't they? Considering one Mr. Joey Bats and his contract negotiations. Basically, somebody asked him, would Batista take a hometown discount? And he said something to the effect of, that doesn't exist. They know my number, and they can get to it.
Yeah.
I will say this in Toronto's defense. I'm not sure I'm ready to commit $150 million and $30 million a year to a guy that's 36 years old. So I can see it from their side, too.
In response, though, Joey Batista went to Twitter to defend himself a little bit. But he didn't do it in the traditional way. No, he did it in a very Toronto way, of course.
Politely.
He quoted the greatest prophets to come out of the city of Toronto, or as he would like to call it, the Six.
It's got to be Drake, right?
Joey Batista put out there, quote, "Can't fool the city, man. They know what's up." Mike, your response.
This Drake character, he's kind of taking over your whole city up there, and I don't know that's a good thing.
I don't think it is either, because look, I was just in Toronto like 2 weekends ago, and I can tell you one thing: I never once referred to it as the Six. I never once said I'm in the Six.
Mike, just so you know, if I ever go to Toronto, I will say that I have been in the Six.
Can I retroactively say I was in the Six a few times?
If you've ever been to Toronto, you can say, "Oh, I've been to the Six plenty of times."
Yeah. I don't know about this Drake thing. I mean, I'm just saying there's probably a better ambassador for Toronto out there than this guy. Just
Wayne Gretzky.
Well, he'd be a good one, yeah. What's next?
Well, we're all purveyors of the sports video game.
Absolutely, yeah.
We love them, and normally we think the game is better when it's accurate to how the game is portrayed. Like, you like things to work in the game as they would in a regular real life game, correct?
I agree.
Yes.
I agree with that, but I also have a copy of NFL Blitz 2000 on my Dreamcast.
Right. I think
You still have a Dreamcast?
Yes, I do.
Wow, cool.
things like NFL Blitz, NBA Jam, those are separate. But when it comes to like the show or NHL or NBA 2K, whatever your preferred game franchise is, you want them to be as close to the real thing as possible, so that the thing works properly, right?
Yep.
According to a study done by ESPN and by the people at 2K Sports and Forbes magazine, I guess, that wrote the initial article on this, Steph Curry is so good in real life that NBA 2K can't accurately depict the game.
Come on, he's not that good.
According to the way the game plays, 2K for a few years, NBA 2K has kind of designed their game to be more realistic by rewarding smart plays and good shot selection and things like that.
Yeah.
So basically, driving the basket and kicking out for a corner three is going to be more accurate than just trying to create a shot on your own while dribbling. Okay,
that I understand, yeah.
Steph Curry does that all the damn time. Steph Curry just pulls up from whatever he feels like and drains these threes. So they did a simulation of ESPN asked 2K to do a simulation, and they did a simulation where his stats in the video game ended up being worse than they were in real life.
So basically, Steph Curry is that guy when you go into player editor and just put all the stats up to 99.
Sounds like it.
That's the only way to accurately represent Steph Curry.
He's Tecmo Bo Jackson at this point, right? But I think it's kind of cool, though, that we've got a guy that's better than the video game.
Right.
That doesn't happen very often.
No.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And the Warriors, of course, still chugging along. I think they got only, their 6th loss or 7th loss.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where are they at this point? Because we're getting into where they might be looking at the record at this point.
Yeah, let me pull up the standings right now. Golden State is currently rocking a 50-5 record.
So they got to go 22-5, or no, 23-5 the rest of the way to tie the Bulls.
Which they probably could do.
Yeah, I mean, they've shown no signs of slowing down at this point.
San Antonio's right behind them at 47-9.
Those Spurs, they just never go away.
I know.
Tim Duncan, man.
I'm telling you.
Good fundamental player.
You look at the top 2 teams in the West, the Golden State with 5 losses, San Antonio with 9. You go over to the Eastern Conference, Cleveland has the least amount of losses in the East with 15.
There's just no way that anybody from the East is going to knock off the Warriors or the Spurs. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. The Warriors are 30-0 in the or 30-3 in the conference, 13-0 into the division, 24-0 at home, and 26-5 on the road. They all 5 games they've lost have only been on the road.
Wow, that's amazing. You didn't look at I mean, don't get me wrong, they're a really good team. But you didn't look at them last year and think that they're this good.
This is the greatest team of all time,
right? You just didn't get that impression from watching them. Mm-hmm. I mean, not to say they weren't good, because they really were, but they didn't strike me as like a pantheon of greatness team, and that turns out that maybe they are.
And I'm just blown away still that this pantheon of greatness team is the Golden State Warriors.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like for the longest time, and somewhat and I'm not even an avid basketball fan, and even I was sort of like, oh well, the Warriors are just sort of like that crap team, right?
Didn't this team strike you last year as one of those teams that rises up and has a really great season and then kind of regresses back to normal the following year? I just didn't see this happening with them.
Well, it's just Steph Curry's continued to be the best shooter of our generation, and the rest of the team isn't, losing any sleep either. I mean, they did this for half the season without their head coach. Luke Walton was sitting on the bench.
I did not see this coming out of this team. Mm-hmm. All right, so anyway.
Stick with basketball for 1 second, and we'll go back to your neck of the woods, Greg. Dayton, Ohio is the site.
Home of the Flyers.
Home of I don't know if they're really the Flyers anymore, Greg. Because there was a game on NBCSN that they were being broadcast against. Who were they playing in this game? St. Bonaventure.
Let me correct that. Home of the Fayers.
Yes. This is what was on the screen as the cheerleaders lifted up their signs to cheer for Dayton, and they lifted up the Flyers signs, except they weren't Flyers signs. Said
Fayers, huh?
Somebody missed the L for an A. The A in Dayton got picked up instead of the L.
Go Fayers! Go Fayers!
Go Fayers!
Yeah, there's just more of that fine Ohio educational system coming through there, huh?
Really?
That's right up there with "We're not here to play school."
Also from the state of Ohio.
Right. Makes a fellow proud to be from Ohio, let me tell you.
So
it's okay. You're free of that now.
I know.
The last thing we'll do here in the tabs, we'll go to the country of Argentina.
All right.
Football.
The country that is never getting the Falklands back.
Ooh.
Those are some fighting words.
Mike running a little Great Britain smack on us there.
There was an amateur soccer match going on in the Cordoba province of Argentina. Cesar Flores was the referee.
That is an amazing name.
Cesar Flores. He gave a red card to one of the players. He sent him off.
You better get off the damn field when Cesar Flores tells you.
You better believe it. That's right.
Yeah. Well, in anger, the player left the field and got something from his bag. A short time later, the player returned to the field with a gun and shot the referee.
Really?
To death. He died.
Oh, he killed him?
He killed him for giving him a red card.
Wow.
Cesar Flores is no more?
No.
Cesar Flores has been gunned down.
I just made a note that I was going to put Cesar Flores in the glorious tournament of victory, and now I can't. Oh, I can do the ghost of Cesar Flores. Never mind.
A police source told the FA news agency it all happened during a football match. We don't know exactly what happened, what took place, but it appears the player was angry, fetched a gun, and killed him. Local reports say that Flores was shot 3 times in the head, chest, and neck, while another player, Walter Zarate, was injured but is understood to be out of danger.
I mean, on one hand, this is tragic, but on the other, It's just absolutely so stereotypically South American. As Cesar Flores lay there dying, did he go like, I regret nothing?
God.
Be avenged.
Well, he's going to make the glorious tournament of victory, so there's that. His family can take that home with him today.
Clutching like a single rose or something? I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
Like, this sounds like the opening to like a soap opera murder mystery.
Yeah.
Like, Cesar Flores was brutally gunned down.
Right.
I'm sorry, it's tragic, but god damn it.
I know, but you can't help but just find it's just absurd too.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think in the moment there? Do you think, okay, I'm so pissed off I'm going to kill this guy and then just go on about my business and keep playing?
If someone was just going to go right back to playing a soccer game after shooting a man, it would be in South America.
Yeah. All right. Do you know the routine, folks? Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports, the website. We have all the old episodes there, basicallyasportshow.com. Spreaker, the iTunes, the Stitcher, and the YouTubes, and you can find us on Facebook. And don't forget, Glorious Tournament of Victory, the 4th edition, coming soon. So with that, we're going to call it a night. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.